Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are
the FAIRtax Guys.
And we're going to have to boogie fast through this show.
Yeah,
because we have still got a lot of stuff to get to.
Well, we saw a lot of people at CPAC. This is like a part 2 of our CPAC report. Actually, I think I'm going to entitle this one The Young and the Relentless, because our first 2 interviews were with group that deal with young people, which is very refreshing. As a former high school teacher, all right, I really like dealing with the young folks.
Good to see young folks involved with political causes, and a lot of them we can win over to the fair. This first booth that we talked to, the Young Americans for Liberty, they had the most eye-catching booth in the entire place. Well, I'm not going to tell you about it. Let's just roll the video and let you see what we're talking about. Roll it.
Okay.
The FAIRtax Guys continue at CPAC. We are in what they call CPAC Central, which is where all of, I'm going to take this off. We're in CPAC Central, where all of the vendors and exhibitors are taking place. We walked through here yesterday, and of all of the things in here, this booth, more than anything else, caught our eye. What is the humongous beach ball here all about? We're talking to Chelsea Marie and Billy Oliver. Dylan, okay. It's loud in here. I have a hard time picking. Chelsea, tell me what this is all about.
So this is a free speech ball. We brought it here to CPAC so that people could express their First Amendment right. What we usually do with them is we bring them to college campuses and roll them around and allow people to also express their First Amendment right. So it's just a really fun activity and a fun way to get people involved.
And you run into people who say that they're advocates of free speech, but they don't want to hear any opinion that dissents from theirs. What do people like that write on this thing?
We have people all the time who write about how free speech is oppressive while participating in a free speech exercise. So it's always fun to get people like that. I had a guy write, it looked like a communist manifesto one time, took up like a whole side of my ball, talking about how free speech is, like I said, oppressive. It's the white man's tool to keep people down, you know, things like that. And it's like, do you not realize the irony of participating in a free speech exercise but talking about how your free speech is oppressed? It doesn't make sense to me. So
Dylan, let me get you in here as well. What do you do with this organization?
So I like to go out on college campuses because obviously universities are terrible. They're terrible to our students. They don't care about the First Amendment. And so what we've been doing is with these exercises, we're able to go out on college campuses. We're able to tell them that we're here. We're going to let students practice their First Amendment rights. And if you don't like it, that's too bad. And we have actually sued college campuses on many occasions, and we have affected positive change for free speech for 1.2 million people. Is that 1.2 million students on college campuses? Thanks to Young Americans for Liberty, we've been able to change free speech laws on multiple campuses. I think, what are we at, 72? 72 college campuses across the country have been affected because of Young Americans for Liberty in our program.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever met, in all the dealings with the young people that you do, have you ever met a young person who is a card-carrying member of the IRS fan club?
No. No.
Is there such a thing as an IRS fan club?
I'm not sure, but I think that a lot of college students really just aren't educated enough. And so that's kind of like why we're out here, is because we have students that don't really know where they are politically. And so we're able to make them interact with our activities. We can kind of turn them over to our side of things and thinking.
Do these students, you all deal with them all the time, do you think they would be accepting of a system, a tax system, that lets them bring home their entire paycheck, no withholding, you get a tax refund every month, no tax returns, the IRS goes away? Do the students out there even realize that something like that exists?
No, I personally would be a big fan of that, obviously, because I don't believe the government. I think the government, all they do is take our money and waste it, right? So I personally would be a really big fan of that. But no, I don't think that the younger people, like he said, I just don't think that they're educated enough. Most of them are single issue voters. They see that, you know, if they're like, oh, conservatives are pro-life, so we hate them, right? Like, they're single issue voters. They don't really understand the complexity of taxes and immigration and war and just spending in general, like the national debt being, what is it now, 28 trillion dollars, and it's rising every second of every day. So I think that if we could give people that information and that outlet, and they really understood where and what their money was going to, they would be open to, you know, lower taxes if they really understood where their money was going.
So I assume you guys like the idea of the fair tax, or how familiar with it are you?
Well, you stopped into our booth yesterday. You were very good at explaining like what you guys do, and I think that you guys are awesome for everything and like all the education that you provide. But yeah, like I think that it's important for students to understand that their government, like the government, is taking their money. They're wasting it in so many different ways, and it's just not okay.
When I was in college back in the Stone Age, you know, students were just really gung-ho about changing things. They didn't like the status quo. They wanted everything changed. Yet they just accept an income tax system we've had for over 100 years. Do the kids realize that they can change the system if they don't like it?
I think that a lot of students nowadays are starting to understand that they do have power, and it's through programs like what we have that kind of educate students, and it gets the idea in their mind that they have the power to actually change the way that rules are in this country.
All right. Well, this is a fantastic. Who thought of this? This is a fantastic idea. I mean, you get more eyeballs walking by your booth than anybody else in the place.
So I actually don't know where the concept of the free speech ball came. I know that in the couple years that I have been doing college activism, I've always done them ever since 2018. So I think that people just were trying to find an outlet to really engage people, and somebody one day was like, why don't we roll around a 6-foot beach ball and get people engaged? So yeah, no, it's a really great activity, and the good thing about it being at CPAC is that anybody can participate, not just young people, really anybody can. And that's the point. We want everybody to understand that the First Amendment is your most fundamental right, your ability to speak freely about what you believe in, and not being censored by people because they don't like what you have to say or it offends them. You know, people don't realize how important it is to protect the First Amendment. You know, people fight with me all the time. They say, oh, hate speech, hate speech. I'm like, hate speech doesn't exist. You interpreting something I say and it hurting your feelings doesn't mean it's hateful. You know, your interpretation of the words I say doesn't mean that's how they're meant, you know? So I just think that the free speech ball, I mean, it's my favorite thing to do. It's so much fun. It gets people involved. It gets people talking. And I think that's how we're able to have really good conversations with people, when you can start off with something as simple as a 6-foot beach ball.
All right, well, next time you're out there in the field, tell them that they can live their entire working lives with no income tax and see what they say.
Yeah, thank you so much. I definitely will.
Appreciate it. Thank you all. All right, FAIRtax Power Radio again, still at CPAC, walking around talking to as many people as we can, and we found an organization that we really like, Turning Point USA, talking to Sabrina and Kayla. Most people know what you're about. Go ahead and explain your mission one more time.
Turning Point USA's mission is basically to promote, educate, and influence students, young individuals of fiscal responsibility, free markets, limited government, and overall just American freedom.
And you're all over the place, right?
Yes.
Universities everywhere.
Yes. And high schools.
Over 1,000 chapters.
Been to Berkeley. I mean, that's You mentioned fiscal responsibility. How much do young people in college really understand about the fiscal realities of life in your experience?
Well, in my experience, I'm actually in high school, and not a lot of kids know the true meanings of capitalism or free markets or even limited government or even to change a tire, and they don't understand, so that leads up to they don't understand fiscal responsibility or the true meanings of, you know, American morals that are actually important, and they just get brainwashed by the media, and just, overall they're just uninfluenced.
Do they understand that they're going to have a partner, a silent partner, in their entire working career that does nothing to help them? It just stands by and helps themselves to a portion of their paycheck every week or every month, how often they get it. I'm talking, of course, about Uncle Sam and the IRS.
I think a lot of kids have forgotten that the role of government, you know, we the people, we we govern over, we rule over the government. At the end of the day, we employ the government. Yeah, and I think that the kids have learned that we have to heavily rely on the government, and it should be the other way around. You know, we give them the jobs.
Do kids understand that they have an option? They do not have to have a life full of the IRS. There is a proposal in Congress as we speak to get rid of the IRS, to get rid of income taxes, to get rid of payroll taxes, and let kids, everybody actually, bring home their entire paycheck. How's that sound to you?
That sounds great. To some kids, they think they prefer higher taxes.
Right.
Why would they do that?
Government.
Yeah,
I think
they want a $15 minimum wage, but it's going to burst and crash the economy, and they don't realize that. And not enough kids are going to be going to college, and not enough kids, they're going to be living off a $15 minimum wage at McDonald's and think that's the way of living, and it's not.
Yeah, they don't understand that minimum wage is not intended to support a family. It's intended to get people entry-level jobs where they can learn the skills they need to move up and succeed later. But again, they find out when they get their first, gee, I'm making $15 an hour. I worked, 10 hours. Let's make the math easy. I should have $150, and they get their paycheck that says like 98, and they look at it. What happened?
Right, and it also ruins the business because McDonald's, there's not going to be a dollar menu anymore because they're busy giving their employees a $15 minimum wage, so it's just ruining.
Well, they'll be replaced by those little touchscreen kiosks where you order your things.
Exactly.
Oh, I tell you what. But I'll tell you, if you can get folks to understand that they don't have to live with the income tax, you all have heard of the FAIRtax, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of it?
Well, I've definitely heard of it, but I haven't been inducted into.
Okay, well, the FAIRtax, let me explain to you real quick. It replaces the income tax. No more income tax, which means no more withholding, no more payroll taxes. You bring home your full amount. You don't have to fill out a tax return. You don't have to share the intimate details of your financial situation with the government. It's just, it's assessed on the retail purchase of new goods and services. You all understand the state sales tax.
Yes.
You go there, you buy a $100 item, you take it to the shelf, they'll charge you $107 with a 7% sales tax. But the FAIRtax works like your taxes on fuel. If your gas price is $2.50 a gallon, you buy 10 gallons, it's $25. They don't add on to it afterwards. Now, does that sound like an idea you think you can get behind?
Yes, actually.
I'm on board.
I'm definitely on board.
All right. Yeah. How many love the IRS? We asked that question, and nobody has ever raised their hand saying they're big fans of the IRS.
I want to keep my money.
Absolutely. Well, in that case, you're a FAIRtax fan, and you don't know it yet.
Yeah.
All right. But again, we do want to compliment you on the work that you're doing on not just taxes, but on everything that the kids need to know and need to understand. And if you see Charlie Kirk, tell him we said hi.
All right.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that was kind of cool. Talking to young people there in the vendor exhibitor area. And of course, Turning Point. Everybody has heard of Turning Point. Charlie Kirk is on TV all the time. Mm-hmm. That is an organization that is really having an impact on young people, especially on college campuses. And if somehow we can get hooked up with them and help them or get them to help us get the FAIRtax message out, that could go a long way.
My grandson is a member of that group.
Of Turning Point USA?
Yep. So he's in college in South Florida.
Yeah, we signed the beach ball, by the way. If anybody wants to wonder what we did.
Wasn't that something?
Yes.
That beach ball? I've never seen one that big.
Yeah. Something like abolish the IRS, pass the FAIRtax. We got it. Okay, we got to move along. This Leadership Institute. Now, that is something I had never heard of before we met this guy in this Stephen Rowe is his name.
Yes.
At CPAC, and they've got a really good mission.
They do. Let's take a look and see what. This is a short interview, but important anyways. So let's roll this one. The Leadership Institute.
We're pleased to be talking with Stephen Rowe. You represent something called Leadership Institute. Explain what that is.
Absolutely. Leadership Institute is a training organization. We train people how to win. We were founded in 1979 by our president and founder, Morton Blackwell, and we essentially teach conservatives the nuts and bolts of how to succeed in the public policy process. The way I like to say it is everyone has a chink in their armor, so to speak, whether that's public speaking or fundraising, and that's where we come in. We help conservatives how to win with effective training.
Okay, well, it sounds like us and your organization and our organization can work together pretty well, because people need educating on the fair tax. You familiar with that?
Yes, yeah, very familiar with the FAIRtax, and yeah, I mean, to equip your activists with tools to succeed, that's exactly where we can come into play. Definitely want to help you in any way possible. So we'd love to find a win.
How does somebody get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So you can connect with us at leadershipinstitute.org. Check out our training tab. We've got amazing ones every single week, and you owe it to your philosophy to learn how to win. We have a moral obligation to study how to win. It's not enough that it's not sufficient that we are right in the sense that we think in the right way. We have to learn how to win, and we owe it to our philosophy to do that. So come to li.org, get trained, get effective, and let's win more victories in the future.
Yeah, having the right idea doesn't always mean you win the war, does it?
Exactly, and that's where we're here. You can have the right idea, but you have to be able to message the idea or to reach the right people, and that's exactly where we come into play. So yes, I completely agree.
All righty, well, we'll see if we can't get together and send some of our FAIRtax volunteers your way, and together we can learn how to beat the income tax.
Exactly, and you can't see my smile, but I'm smiling right now. Thank you so much. This is really cool.
All right, appreciate it. You have a great day.
You too.
And that was actually, the beauty of editing, we can put things in any order we want to. That was actually the first interview we did.
It was
at CPAC with him.
Yeah, but I thought it fit in better towards the end of the program here because of the possibility of our working together. All right, we're all volunteers. I mean, I'm a former high school science teacher. Bob is in radio and computer programming. None of us are marketing experts, but the Leadership Institute, I think if we teamed up with them, they could help us get the word out.
Well, it's interesting, just having a good message is not enough. You have to know the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts, the technical details, if you will, of actually how to connect your message with the audience that you're trying to reach.
Right.
And that's what those guys do.
Yep.
So I see a real definite possibility that FAIRtax people could be working with Leadership Institute. If there are people that, how can I represent the FAIRtax more effectively? Well, go listen to some of their tips and you'll have your answer.
Yep. And our last one here is with our buddies at Political Media. That's a company up near D.C. that is helping the national group, the Americans for Fair Taxation. Actually been working with them for like 10 years, and they're doing a lot more now, and they're really doing a great job. So,
Trevor Kendrick, you actually saw him sitting at a table there at CPAC. You walked by, and
he spotted me because of our new shirts.
Oh yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And he called me over and introduced himself. We had talked on the phone before, but it's the first time we met, so it was good. And unfortunately, he couldn't stay another day because he had another commitment. He had to get home. So we only met him for that brief encounter, but it was well worth it.
Yeah. Well, maybe next time he'll stay and he can buy us dinner. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go.
But we had to talk to him via Zoom because he had to leave early.
Yeah.
But,
so, anyways, let's talk to Trevor here. Bob does a good interview with him.
Okay, roll it. FAIRtax Power Radio speaking to Trevor Kendrick now, and a fair warning. Ron says he's got a timer on me, 5 minutes, and he's coming after me with a hook. So we're going to have to get this done pretty quickly. Also, full disclosure, you work for a firm called Political Media, and they have a business relationship with Americans for Fair Taxation. Describe some of the services that you provide to the fair tax people.
We've been working with FAIRtax for a long time. Before I came on with Larry a couple years ago, FAIRtax was one of the original organizations that gave Political Media a chance, and we hope to think that it's really paying off. But we do all of their email marketing, we've done their web design, and we do a lot of consulting to kind of help with their marketing messages that they do.
All right, I want to get into the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. Your impressions of CPAC. You were there.
CPAC is always a great event. The people who put it on really do a stellar job. They always make you feel very welcome. I'm being from the DC area. I'm used to it being in that particular location. But I will say it was nice to kind of get out of the cold Northern Virginia. And as soon as I walked out on the plane in Orlando, it was 85 degrees, and I couldn't have felt better.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that they would make the CPAC a permanent fixture in Florida, but I hear there's a little brouhaha now between Matt Schlapp and the hotel there, which we don't have time to get into. But hopefully they'll do that again next year, and you can fly down here and enjoy our Florida weather in February again.
You guys definitely have it good.
Okay, what I really want to ask you, what kind of opportunities would CPAC as an event offer to the FAIRtax movement? How can we better use that as a tool for educating people about the fair tax?
Well, I think anytime that you can get conservatives together to talk about tax reform, it's always going to be a good opportunity for the people for fair tax. The best thing about CPAC is people are fairly knowledgeable of a lot of the different tax reforms that have been put in place. Mm-hmm. People like to say Trump did a great job in 2016, but fair tax goes a lot farther. And the fact that you can get everybody together in one location, it really helps out, with getting the information in their hands. And that's very important in this day and age.
Okay, well, I was thinking that if you're going to make an impression on these people, both the political people and the media folks that are gathered there as well, you kind of need more than just 3 people walking around in fair tax gear. In your professional opinion, how many fair taxers would have to show up there at a place like CPAC to really get noticed?
I think anytime you have a movement, I mean, that's as national as the fair tax is. I mean, you have state organizations as well. If you could get quite a few people, anytime you have a grassroots movement, numbers are always very important. Mm-hmm. So just a couple people walking around, the event's very big and you can only talk to so many people. But everybody who's walking around with their fair tax t-shirts and their fair tax palm cards, the more you can pass out, the more people that you can get it in front of. And any grassroots movement really needs a great showing to show the support that fair tax really does have around the country. The more people you have there, the bigger the movement looks and the better it's going to be received.
Okay, quick. Do you think there's anything that political media could do to help us make a better impression next CPAC?
One of the things that we could definitely do is push for more volunteers to show up. And a lot of people know that that CPAC is going to be going on, but they might not know the details of how to get there or how fair tax could support them in going and helping the message get out. Another thing that we could also do is leading up to CPAC, definitely drive membership and getting people more involved, especially if you know that it's going to be in Florida. That you have a fairly large Florida fair tax group. Mm-hmm. Talking to those people, and even if they could just drive up, a couple people a day just to spend time, outside of the facility. You don't even have to buy a ticket to go in. Just spending time outside of the facility, walking around to the local restaurants and the bars within the hotel. Any of that networking that you can do is going to be really, really important. One of the things that we've really talked about doing from this CPAC is doing some marketing and targeting the people that came. So you don't have to do it all while you're there, because I know it's really, really hard endeavor. I went myself as one person from political media, and I can tell you, by the time I walked up and down those halls, probably 100 times, I felt like I had walked 10 or 15 miles a day, and that's really hard for one person to do. So the more people you can have there is always going to be better.
All right. Well, maybe next time I can meet you in person. And Ron, yeah. I see the hook out of the corner of my eye, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But thank you so much for talking with us, Trevor Kendrick of Political Media.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
That was good, Bob.
And this ends our video excursion into CPAC 2021. So
I also want to emphasize that along with the recordings of the interviews, we met and talked with a lot of other people. Byron Donalds.
Yeah, there were some people who didn't particularly want to appear on camera. We did catch up with Byron Donalds, who was a fair tax signer of the campaign pledge. Mm-hmm. He has yet to sign on. And what was funny, I think now we're learning about kind of the little back and forth between Byron and Kat Kamek.
Yes. Yeah, that was interesting. Kat said that the two of them get along and they're kind of competitive too. So she's going to put a little pressure on him. The thing is, he's a brand new person in Congress, freshman. It's overwhelming at first. I mean, there's a lot to be done, you know. So I can understand that he hasn't signed, but I have every confidence that he will. But we also met with other people. Reuben Young.
Reuben Young. He's running in South Florida trying to unseat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yeah. And he had not heard about the fair tax beforehand.
No, he was a newbie.
When we explained that to him, and of course we didn't have the camera at the time, we just ran across him, so we couldn't interview with him, but he was very interested. Once we explained the basics of it, he said, wow, I need to learn more about this. We may be going down to Miami to talk to him and his staff.
Because we can't, well, Bob and I are two guys that do the FAIRtax Power Radio. We don't have to be, we're not a 501c3, but we do represent a 501c3, so we try to be nonpartisan. We don't promote anybody, but we try to educate everybody. Okay, that's very important. And speaking of educating, go ahead.
I was saying, back when Kat was a candidate rather than a representative, now we were able to present the fair tax to her staff.
Yep, we put on a
many of
seminar.
whom were not familiar with the fair tax. Yep. So if we get the same opportunity with Reuben Young, that could help a lot.
Another one I want to mention is I think it was either Friday or Saturday morning, we ran into Ben Ferguson. He was at his booth on Media Row.
Yes,
and the give and take there was that we're going to continue our communication.
Yeah, he complimented us on continuing the good fight.
Yeah.
So of course, maybe, hopefully, we can either get him to come on FAIRtax Power Radio, or I think he's got a little more reach than we do. Maybe we can go talk on his show.
I'm sure he does.
Something like that. And Buck Sexton, we talked to him briefly.
Yeah.
So it's CPAC is just a wonderful opportunity to get together and meet political and media people who need to hear the fair tax message.
Plus, I really want to give you credit, because when we found out that a booth was really going to cost a lot of money, and Bob said, we don't need a booth. All we need is, some shirts and a camcorder and a microphone, and we can, instead of waiting for people to come to us, we can go to them. It worked out splendidly for us, and it cost the Florida Fair Tax a heck of a lot less money.
Yes, well, we just need a heck of a lot more people to do this again next time. So
so I thought this was a great way to do it. It was a good experiment on our part, and it worked out well. So I was very, very pleased with what happened at CPAC. Yes, as Trevor said, there's a lot of steps. I looked at on my step monitor on my phone. Yeah, like 8,000 steps each day.
All right, we're just about out of time again. Let's remind everyone of our email address, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. If you have a question or comment about the fair tax, if you'd like to leave a comment on our Facebook page or on one of our YouTube videos, you can do that.
Yep.
And of course, we get some pretty good feedback from that, and sometimes
we do. And I found another one today I'll tell you about later.
All right, well, it'll have to be later because we are just about flat out of time. But that was fun out at CPAC.
It was well
if they have it in Florida again next year, we'll definitely go back. If they have it in D.C., there's a good chance we'll do it anyway. But until then, we are the FAIRtax Guys. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
Reminding you again that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FAIRtax Guys on social media and their own website, FAIRtaxGuys.com, and check back every week for a new episode of FAIRtax Power Radio.